This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Josh Hennig.
Trading Scott Laughton was one of the most difficult thing I probably ever had to do as a GM. What he means to the Flyers, always been here. The type of person he is, the teammate that he is, how helpful he was to not just his teammates, the coaching staff, the community, him and his wife. At the end, it's kind of a cool ending for him, having a chance to go back home. And
that's the voice of Flyers general manager and former teammate of Scott Laughton. That's Danny Briere. Earlier today, his post-NHL trade deadline press conference. Yes, the Philadelphia Flyers have moved on from Scott Laughton. We'll get into all that and more coming up here on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios. We'll get to the Flyers NHL Trade Deadline. Plus, how realistic is it for the Eagles to potentially get a big name at the pass rush position? And Bob Wischusen, who's calling the Flyers game tomorrow for ABC, the Flyers versus the Kraken. You can hear the game right here on 97.3 ESPN, 12:30. But if you want to watch on the television side, it's on ABC tomorrow, Flyers and Kraken. We'll get Bob's insights on the Flyers coming up. As always, you guys can join the conversation at 609-403-0973. It's one of those things where we'll get to your texts, your DMs, the 973 ESPN mobile app. Also, we're live on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig. But one of the big things about a day like today is about perspective. It's about the reality that if you come into a conversation with a bias, right? The idea of confirmation bias. Hey, I am walking around and trying to get what I want to be heard, said, proven, and I'm not really going to factor in anything else or anyone else thinks. And then there's people who are willing to be open-minded and listen to conversations. And one of the points that I've been making in recent weeks here on 97.3 ESPN played itself out today with the Flyers at the trade deadline. And that is, you have executives like Danny Briere, the Flyers, Howie Roseman, the Philadelphia Eagles. These guys are willing and able to look at, we'll use the example of a poker table. They're able to look at the players at the table, the hand that they have. What is the cards laid out on, you're playing Texas Hold'em, right? What is the river? What is the cards that are lining up with yours or not lining up with yours? And making decisions about what is happening around you. Reading the room, reading the table, reading the other players, reading the dealer. And the reason why someone like myself would say that I look at a team like the Flyers at having more of a plan and more of a direction than a team like the Philadelphia 76ers. And I think that the Flyers are closer to the Eagles is because when I listen and when I observe those general managers, I see purpose. I see intention. I hear purpose. I hear intention. I don't get that same vibe from the Sixers or the Phillies. And there was a comment that Rob Motti made yesterday here on 97.3 ESPN, AP senior NFL writer and reporter, talking about Howie Roseman. And I thought it was a very interesting perspective about where Howie Roseman stands in the big picture of Philadelphia sports. Take a listen. I want to play it back for you guys. Again, yesterday here on 97.3 ESPN, AP senior NFL writer and reporter Rob Motti.
Willing to explore anything that would help make the Eagles a better football team. There isn't going to be a player who's available in the offseason that the Eagles will not inquire about. Big name, little name, whatever it may be. And the fact that he can identify mistakes and correct those and fix those, and he built a Super Bowl champion. Things went south. He rebuilt a Super Bowl champion. As I'm talking to you now and thinking about this, Howie Roseman might be the greatest executive in the history of Philadelphia sports.
You don't get to that level just because you won 2 championships. It helps a lot with your resume. But it's what Rob said. It's the growth. It's the evolution. It's the I'm calling about every single player who might be available. I'm going to exhaust every single option that could potentially make this team, make this organization better. It's that mentality that separates the men from the boys. And it's a similar vibe that I heard today from Danny Briere, the Flyers general manager, because he was asked about getting that first-round pick. Remember, a big reason why, as Kevin Durso has explained on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill, as well as with me here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, if you've been following Kevin Durso's coverage of the Flyers in recent years, you know that this team has been trying to collect draft capital. Why? Because they understand that where they're situated right now is not where they want to be. When Keith Jones and Danny Briere came in to take over a couple years ago, they were taking over a mess. Howie Roseman walked into a situation where he was looking for redemption from how things went sideways for him with Chip Kelly previously. Danny Briere and Keith Jones didn't have that luxury where they basically had to realize they had to basically deliver the Flyers from hell. And Howie Roseman realized he just needed to fix the house. 2 very different situations, but there's a level of intention. There's a level of evolution. There is a level of growth that comes with these jobs, the willingness to do whatever it takes. And so when Danny Briere explained the importance of them getting that first-round pick, that the biggest reason why they traded Scott Lawton, the guy who has been a part of this organization for over 12 years, is because of the return on the trade. It's an important part of this conversation.
It was preferable because there's no guarantee that first round pick we will be picking at some point. We hope to be one of those teams on the other side of the fence that are looking to acquire players. Like you mentioned, having 3 already this year, still our own next year. We felt, those first round picks you saw today, you see at on draft day, they're so valuable.
He talks about how they don't want to be the team that's trading for draft picks in the future. They want to be the team that is trading draft picks for players. They want to be a team that says, hey, this draft pick is really valuable. What are you going to give me for this pick? And so that is a level of intention. That is a man who is looking to a specific progression in the future. You're not trading Joel Farabee, Morgan Frost, and Scott Lawton, 3 guys who at one point or another were considered major pieces of this organization, if you don't have a larger plan. And part of that plan, obviously, is elevating the Flyers from salary cap hell, putting them in a position to be competitive moving forward. And it's the same idea that Howie Roseman does. Howie Roseman says, I'm going to call about every option, every scenario. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this team better. And being a successful executive in a big-time sports city like Philadelphia requires that. And that's why, as Rob Motti explained yesterday, that the Philadelphia Eagles will be involved in the calls about, if they haven't already, about Bengals pass rusher Trey Hendrickson.
When Deebo Samuel's traded for a 5, when teams just value their picks so much, it's hard to pry a 1 away from a team. Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals being in the situation that they're in now, they're going to have to settle for trading him for, I feel like, a 2, a 3 combination thereof. And yes, teams like the Eagles and the Commanders, they're going to be in that conversation.
And you heard him say it there, like Danny Briere said. It's about the value of these picks. Teams value these draft picks. And you and I can criticize teams all we want for, why do you care so much about something that's unknown? Why are you so why are you willing to hang on to an unknown than invest in a known? And listen, that is part of the world we live in. Part of the world we live in likes the options that are granted them more than what they actually get for spending their money or spending their resources. It's like people fall in love with building the house more so than the house that they end up living in after it being built. It's like people appreciate going through the process of negotiating for what they want more than actually getting what they want. And it's a much deeper psychological thing I might get into right here on 97.3 ESPN, because we are a sports station. We are not a station for, this isn't NPR or something, or the Inside of You podcast. But it's the idea that if you are someone who values not the end product, but you value the process of getting to the end product, maybe you don't appreciate what it means to win a championship. And I think that for someone like Howie Roseman, he values winning a championship more than anything else. And I think that the reason why he's willing to make that call about Trey Hendrickson of the Bengals or anyone else is because he says, I am more concerned about trying to be in a position to win than I am holding on to some sacred draft picks. And I think Danny Briere is kind of giving you the same answer. Danny Briere is giving you a similar vibe of, look, I'm collecting these draft picks for now, but my ultimate goal is to not be just collecting draft picks. I want to convey these and convert them into something bigger, something better, something that does have more value. And I think that is the biggest part of all of this, is the idea that when you have direction, when you have intention, you are going to make major decisive moves and decisions in life that are not going to be looked at as, what on earth are you doing? And the problem is that there is an ambiguity. There is and I'm trying not to be mean to Dave Dombrowski of the Phillies or Daryl Morey of the Sixers, because I think both men are more than just figureheads. I think they both are competitive men who want to win. But there are many times that they have, through their words and through their actions, have left it up to interpretation for the fans and us in the media. There has been an unclear message at times from those two organizations, a message and a set of actions, a set of words that create conversation about, well, what are we really doing here? And yes, some things are just out of those guys' control. But if we focus more on what you can control versus what you can't control, I don't feel there is any ambiguity when it comes to how Howie Roseman or Danny Briere operate, where I don't get that same vibe from Daryl Morey or Dave Dombrowski. Now, I will say Dave Dombrowski of the Phillies has won championships, multiple championships. He has taken multiple franchises, I believe it's 4 altogether, to World Series appearances. The Marlins, the Tigers, the Red Sox, and the Phillies. So this is a man whose track record is borderline impeccable. But it doesn't change the fact that his words and his actions definitely make you question, well, now what? At times with this team, a team in the Phillies that they have lost the last 2 postseasons because their offense is falling apart, and they really didn't do much to upgrade their offense or improve it or fortify it. A team like the Sixers, they say their goal is to win a championship, but yet as soon as it becomes obvious that the championship is out of reach, they double down and try to tell you that what you're seeing is not there. Flyers are not doing that. Flyers are telling you, we are in a rebuild. This is what a rebuild looks like. This is what our goal is. Howie Roseman said it at the Combine last week. He said, it is my job to make sure that we do not start from scratch and that we are always competitive and contenders. Very different perspectives. One from the men who run the Flyers and the Eagles, and another perspective and a set of actions from the men who run the Sixers and the Phillies. Josh Hennig hanging out with you here on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Coming up on the other side, we will be joined by Bob Wischusen. He'll be calling the Flyers-Kraken game tomorrow on ABC. Puck drop after 12:30. And, of course, this edition of Game Night being brought to you by the return of Boxing Insider Promotions, jam-packed action at Tropicana Showroom Saturday, March 22nd. Don't miss your chance to see some of the top boxers from New Jersey in action. Watch the rising stars of the sport showcase their skills, headlined by undefeated Atlantic City fighter Justin Figueroa and the professional debut of Pleasantville boxer Julio Sanchez III. Get your tickets now at Ticketmaster.com to ensure you don't miss Boxing Insider Promotions' first action-packed event of 2025 on Saturday, March 22nd, inside the Tropicana Showroom in Atlantic City. Get your tickets now at Ticketmaster.com.
Listen to all the magic. March Madness is coming to 97.3 ESPN.
We're famous for our buffalo wings. The Piccadilly comes to cooking wings. We're the king. The Piccadilly.
On game day, don't wing it. Take the trip to the Pick. South Jersey's king of the wing. Try their award-winning wings, tails, and ears in mild, spicy, or hot, or signature flavors like garlic parm, hot honey, Jim Beam maple, and more. For eat-in or takeout, get your chicken wing fix on Route 206 at the Piccadilly Inn. Join the flock. Follow them on Facebook for events and game day specials.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting great candidates? Well, they're not hard to find when you go to ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. People who are actively looking for jobs like yours. So it's easy to find the right person fast. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Welcome to AT&T. How can I help?
Hey, I thought I could trust my twins with my phone, but they outnumber me, man.
Whoa, that's a lot of glitter paint. Let's trade
Lives?
At AT&T, everyone can trade in an old or glittered iPhone any year, any condition, and save on a new iPhone. Ask how to get iPhone 16 Pro on us. New and existing customers. Savings vary by device and trade-in combinations. Restrictions apply. See att.com/iPhone for details. AT&T. Connecting changes everything.
Winter is here. Are you prepared? Don't get left in the dark. Kelvy Electric, a certified Generac dealer, has you covered. From installation to maintenance, they're your go-to experts for Generac generators, ensuring your home stays powered through any storm. A Generac home standby generator will automatically restore power to your home during an outage, so your life goes on uninterrupted. Put your trust in Kelvy Electric, the premier electrical contractor, serving South Jersey for over 110 years. Visit KelvyElectric.com today and stay ahead of any storm.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-511-3535. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-511-3535. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-511-3535. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-511-3535. 800-511-3535 or biglou.com.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your
windshield wipers? eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying. Just beautiful.
Whatever you love, find it on eBay. eBay. Things people love.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
Progressive Insurance presents the Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN. NHL, the Flyers will host the Seattle Kraken on Saturday as they continue a 7-game homestand. Flyers have lost 3 of their last 4 on Thursday. They fell to Winnipeg 4-1. Matvei Michkov scored the Flyers' only goal of the game. It came in the third period with Philadelphia down 4-0. NBA, the Sixers back home Sunday as they take on the Utah Jazz. Philadelphia has lost 3 straight and 12 of their last 13. They fell to Boston Thursday night, 123-105. Kelly Oubre scored 27 points in the loss. Lonnie Walker with 17. Paul George sat out due to a groin injury. Major League Baseball, Phillies face Toronto on Saturday in Clearwater. Thursday, they lost to Tampa Bay 5-4. Progressive Insurance, bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. I'm Tony Desiri, and that's your Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN.
Hey, Joy. Oh, you are glowing.
Oh, hey. More like Mirajoyed. That Miralax helped me go. I was so backed up. Tried mega coffees, prune juice, everything. Then Miralax. And hello, gentle relief without the harsh side effects.
Ooh, how does it work?
It works naturally with the water in your body for constipation relief. Find Miralax today at your local retailer.
Use as directed for occasional constipation.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. The wicked wind should continue to calm down as we pass sunset this evening. Look for mostly cloudy skies overnight with a chance of a sprinkle or flurry early tomorrow morning. Low temperature will dip to 37 degrees. Tomorrow, clouds will quickly give way to sunshine. It'll be breezy for your Saturday, high 48. Sunday, mostly sunny with a high of 52. Sunny and 58 on Monday. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
For over 135 years, First Bank of Sea Isle City has proudly served Cape May County with a commitment to maintaining a hometown feel. We provide secure, convenient deposit and loan products every day. We're more than just a bank. We're a trusted community partner, offering personalized banking solutions that make life easier for local families of all ages. First Bank of Sea Isle City. Look for our lighthouse in your neighborhood and discover what makes us different.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
And you see some of the young guys taking a step this year. When you think about Noah Cates, Owen Tippett, Tyson Forster, Bobby Brink have all elevated their play, and you hope that they can used what they've learned from Scott.
Josh Hennig here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios here on 97.3 ESPN. After the trade deadline, after the Flyers have moved on from 3 players, they'll be back on the ice tomorrow, and you can catch all the action on ABC, the Kraken and the Flyers at 12:30, and the man will be on the call again will be ESPN's Bob Wischusen, and he joins us again here on 97.3 ESPN. Bob, welcome back. How you doing today?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Doing good. So for someone like you, I've always wanted to know, when you have a game the day after a deadline, like what's going on with the NHL today, is there a part of you that's like looking at the deadline and just saying, thank God I have the game after the deadline so I actually know what some of these teams look like?
Yeah, I mean, because I had a game last night. We were calling Seattle, Colorado, and during warm-ups, we weren't 100% sure who was actually going to even play in the game. So is it less stressful to call games after the trade deadline than before? Absolutely. We were calling people from ESPN last night and even scanning social media to see, based on the rumors, if the guys that we were watching in warm-ups were still going to be on the ice when the game started. Nico Sturm played for Seattle. He was traded during the day to Florida yesterday. Jake Wallman was at practice in the morning, and then we found out when we got back for the game that he was headed to Edmonton, and a different guy was in the lineup. So, yeah, there's no doubt. It's much easier to do a game the day after the trade deadline when you actually know that the roster is set and that there are not going to be any surprises tomorrow morning. Hopefully they'll be able to tell us who's actually in the lineup.
So with that being said, obviously, Bob, you've called a lot of the Flyer games this year, and you're seeing the team in different iterations. One of the questions we've been having throughout the day here on 97.3 ESPN with our audience is, are the Flyers going in the right direction? So I ask you, as someone who has watched the Flyers this year, do you think the Flyers are going in the right direction?
I think they are. I do think that there has been development. I mean, even the development of Matvei Michkov alone points them in the right direction. He seems to embrace wanting the puck in big spots, and he seems to be a guy that you're going to have as a foundational piece. Look, like, they're getting capital back for these guys they've moved. Now we'll see what they do with it. But that's all you can do. And all you can do is get younger, and all you can do is get draft capital and then spend draft capital and get new players, and hopefully you pick the right guys. So it's going to be a few years before you find out if the investment that they're making in the trades they're making right now work out. But, they're one of those teams where they have, in my opinion, maximized the talent level that this group is capable of. And I think John Tortorella last year and this year has gotten everything that you can possibly get out of this group, and this group still is just barely on the outside looking in. And at some point, you kind of have to be honest with yourself about what you are. And then once you're honest with yourself about what you are, then you do what they're doing, and you make trades of guys that you know are not going to be here 3 or 4 years from now, and hopefully whatever youth movement finally arrives and kind of bears fruit, is ready to make the playoffs and be a contender again. So, yeah, I mean, I totally understand what they're doing, and I agree with the philosophy.
We're talking with Bob Wischusen. He'll be on the call tomorrow on ABC for the Kraken versus Flyers at 12:30. Of course, you can hear the game also right here on 97.3 ESPN. Bob, if I could backtrack what we said about Michkov, you mentioned about his development this year. Is there something that you have observed or you have heard in that development this year that maybe has stood out to you the most?
That by the time we arrive at this point in the season, he's still productive. He's, I think, even becoming more productive as the year goes on, and that he has not broken at all mentally under John Tortorella. And I say that from a standpoint of, like, I don't want to make it sound like John Tortorella is anything other than the perfect coach for him, because I really think he is. I think he's the perfect kind of push the right button at the right time guy to coach a young player hard when it needs to be hard, like massage him when he needs to be massaged, but there are times where, and look, he's just flat out benched him and gotten in his face at times where that's been necessary. But also there are times where, like, you have to kind of push a guy and see how he responds. And based on how he's playing right now, I think he's proven that he's responded well. So I think there's a mental toughness there that you have to see that it shows up when it gets tested. And I think it's been tested, and I think it's shown up. So to me, that's really encouraging for a guy as young as he is.
You mentioned about Tortorella, about the kind of coach that he is. Obviously, this is not Tort's first stop, right? He's been with the Rangers. He's been with Vancouver, with Columbus. He's been around the league for a while. But there does seem to be a bit of maybe an evolution to an extent with him as well. Have you seen that this season?
I definitely have seen that. And I've talked to Ryan Callahan about that, who played for him. Ryan Callahan, he experienced it firsthand. He definitely thinks that Torts is a little different now than he was then. But at the same time, Callie will tell you, and he'll tell you firsthand, that he was one of, if not the best coach he ever played for. He is the classic example, almost like a kid looking back on a parent who was tough on them, and you didn't like it when you were going through it. But then when you came out the other side and grew up and looked back on it, you're like, oh, okay, like that person cared about me. That person loved me. That person was teaching me a lesson, and I'm better for it. And, Callie said, like, I became a much better player, and I became a much better, like, human being for having played for John Tortorella. And he thinks that Matvei Michkov is going to go through and develop and experience the exact same thing that he experienced. And, I guess speaking firsthand, that's all you want, right? You just want to talk to somebody that's gone through it firsthand. And I would be really encouraged if I were a Flyers fan from that standpoint, because I'm talking to someone who went through it firsthand.
What's interesting with the Flyers, with Tortorella as well, is that the fact that you have this front office, guys like Keith Jones, guys like Danny Briere. I know you and I have talked about the Flyers front office before, about how these guys are more than just former players. These are guys who have been invested in the sport for decades, and they have basically looked at Tortorella and entrusted him with the development of this team, to the point, Bob, where they said, hey, Joe Farabee and Morgan Frost, you guys aren't developing the way we want under Tortorella. We're moving on. So it's a very interesting dynamic between, Bob, guys that like Keith Jones, who are heading up the operation, and their entrustment of Tortorella in the development.
Yeah, like you hire John Tortorella for a reason. Right, like you go in with eyes wide open, and you hire John Tortorella for your roster for a reason, because you want your players developed a certain way, right? Like in the NFL, you would hire Bill Parcells for a reason, because you want a developmental, button-pushing, like mental coach to come in and develop and teach your guys, and take guys that aren't winning and develop a culture, and not only turn them into winners, but kind of turn them into hopefully sustained winners. And, there's no doubt, like if the guys aren't, he's done this in other places, and, won a cup and been a Jack Adams Award winner, and has developed. Again, I'm talking to somebody in Ryan Callahan. They'll tell you firsthand, he knows how to develop players. So if guys aren't developing under him, you don't talk about the large sample size of the coach who's done it over and over again and reject that. You kind of look at maybe the individual player and say, all right, you're probably not the right player for us then. Let's look at a different type of player that's going to flourish under a coach that knows how to develop guys. And so, yeah, I agree. I think it is sticking with the plan if you're sticking with Torts.
Couple more for Bob Wischusen, of course, ESPN broadcaster and commentator. He will be on the call for Kraken versus Flyers tomorrow on ABC at 12:30 p.m. Obviously, in Philadelphia, Bob, as you as well as anyone is aware, goaltending has been a conversation for probably longer than either of us have been alive, because basically since Bernie Perrant was here, it's always been a question. So when you look at Sam Ersson, what do you think the future is for him? Because he's the guy right now, but is he always going to be that guy? Because a lot of times in the NHL now, it's about a tandem. It's not about just number one guy.
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't think they know yet. I mean, even Torts said it the other day. He was looking at these last 20 to 25 games and saying that, right? Like, this really is when you're on the playoff bubble. And look, they've kind of tipped their hand, right? When you trade Lawton away, when you make some of these moves, you're kind of saying, all right, we are more selling than buying. So we're not thinking that we are a playoff team that's going for it. We're not the Rangers on the bubble acquiring players trying to win. We're more trading guys off and selling and accumulating assets for the future.
All right, Bob, before I let you go, obviously, the Flyers are not one of the contenders, so I got to get from you. Florida, they just acquired Brad Marchand today. The Flyers fans just saw Winnipeg last night and how good they can be. This league, there's a handful of teams that are really good. We know what the Stars have done at the deadline, what Colorado at the deadline. What are the teams that you are looking at the most as we get closer to the postseason?
I still have a tremendous amount of respect for Winnipeg. I still think they are a really deep, really good team that has a culture there and has a group of guys that probably are going to look at each other and be like, hey, look, everybody else around the league, look what they did. Everybody's gunning for us. And that I think will create a further bond in their room, because they just went out and got a couple of kind of, try-hard role players. They didn't get stars. The Stars got stars. The Avalanche got stars. Obviously, Florida added a star, and I guess a couple stars when you factor Seth Jones in as well. So yeah, I mean, look, the Lightning significantly upgraded. They're certainly going for it. Florida's going for it. Dallas is going for it. Colorado's going for it. Edmonton, all of those teams are factors. But, there's part of me that's pulling for Winnipeg because I think they've earned certainly my respect and everybody's respect at this point.
He's Bob Wischusen. He'll be on the call tomorrow on ABC for the Kraken versus Flyers game at 12:30. And we appreciate taking him time to join us here on 97.3 ESPN. Bob, great insights. We'll talk again soon.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks again for Bob Wischusen for joining me. Of course, I love what he said there at one point about Tortorella. And I think that really drives home part of what I've been trying to articulate here on 97.3 ESPN, and something that, when you've heard guys like Kevin Durso come on the radio with us here on 97.3 ESPN, or other people who cover the NHL, Bob really drove the point home when he talked about John Tortorella. You don't bring a guy like Tortorella in here just to win games. You bring him in here because the man has a track record of development. The man has a track record of helping young players grow into the player that they can be. And he said it there. He said, look, if you can't develop under John Tortorella, then what are we doing? That's why Farabee and Frost were traded away. That is why you bring in Kuzmenko and then immediately move on from him. Because if you are not somebody who is developing and growing under a guy whose really greatest purpose of being here is the development of this organization into a winning franchise, that being John Tortorella, then you don't belong here. And so this is part of the Flyers' plan. And I know for some people, they look at a game like last night and they're a bit disheartened because they say, how can you be the team that is competitive and wins on Saturday night, then play the same team 5 days later and basically get manhandled for 3 periods? And it's because you are still developing, you are still growing, you are still building into who you are going to be as a team, as a franchise. And Tortorella is here for that development. He has been entrusted with the job of developing and elevating and cultivating, turning the young players into more. And so for a guy like Joel Farabee, for a guy like Morgan Frost, who did not get past a certain point. They both hit a ceiling when it came to their development with the Flyers. You're seeing the opposite happen with players like Noah Cates, Tyson Forrester, Bobby Brink. You're seeing those guys grow and evolve and develop and elevate because they are taking what Tortorella is trying to teach them, him and the other coaches. So I think that is a huge part of this conversation. That is, you can't look at the Flyers and use, well, the Sixers did this 10 years ago, because they're not starting from the same starting point. You have a Flyers team that attempted to buy their way into contention, and it completely fell apart. Chuck Fletcher got fired as GM. And remember, Chuck Fletcher was building on top of the mess that Ron Hextall left behind. So when Keith Jones and Danny Briere came into the Flyers, they realized that they are not having to just come in here and rebuild. They were having to come in and purge and cleanse and undo all of the problems from the last 10 years. This was not a traditional rebuild. This was we got to figure it out as we go along, because we don't even know what we got. You know, it's like if you go to a car dealership and you buy a used car and you realize that half the parts in the car are not original, and you're trying to figure out why the people who owned the vehicle before you decided to put a Duke engine inside of a Japanese car, and why they put, a European style exhaust system on the car with the American engine in the Japanese car. Like it's confusing, right? It becomes like this bizarro world, amalgamation, the disaster. So now you're having to go part by part and itemize. Is this necessary? Can we replace this? Do we have to replace this? And I think that's the Flyers have been doing the last 2 years. So you can't look at the Flyers and apply basketball rebuilding concepts to them, because this isn't like basketball where one player comes in and changes everything, right? A guy like LeBron gets drafted by the Cavs, or a player like Giannis evolves with the Bucks, right? Or a player like Steph Curry develops into who he has become. One or two players can change the entire trajectory of an NBA franchise. One or two players are just two nice pieces of a hockey team. And that's why I've always said hockey is more like baseball. The team matters more than the individual in those sports, because we have seen numerous times in baseball, you can have the best player or two or three in baseball, and it mean absolutely nothing. Look at Mike Trout. The guy can't even get to the postseason regularly. For basically a decade, he was the best player walking the planet, and the organization wasted it because they're run by idiots. But you can have a team like the San Francisco Giants that, frankly, their best player for a time was their catcher, Buster Posey. That team was built around timely hitting, elite pitching, and getting big performances from individual players in big moments. And every time they won a World Series, it was a different guy who seemed to step up. Whereas a team like the Angels get the best player on the planet, can't even get to a World Series. And hockey is the same way. You look at a guy like Connor Bedard, who was drafted 2 years ago. Amazing player, horrible team. The Penguins, when they first drafted Crosby and Malkin, they didn't win a Stanley Cup immediately. Ovechkin took him, 15 years to win a cup? Because in these sports, you need the other players added to what you are doing. And so I just encourage with the Flyers, realize that this rebuild, this redevelopment, you can't apply your confirmation bias into these conversations. You have to look at it for what it is and not what you are wanting it to be. Because at the end of the day, in hockey, 8 seeds have way more success in postseasons than in any other sport. In the NFL, if you are the last team to get in the postseason, like the number 7 seed, you're probably not in the best position to win a championship unless you get on a hot streak, like the Washington Commanders did, and they got to the NFC Championship game. That's rare. It doesn't happen every year. In basketball, I don't think I think there's been one 6 seed that's won a championship. Everyone else in the last 30 years has been seeds 1, 2, or 3. You look at a sport like baseball. In the modern iteration of the game where multiple teams make the postseason, it's usually the team that just happens to get hot. It's not a specific type of team. It's not a specific, did you win your division? Are you a wild card? No, it's the team that happens to start hitting well and pitching well at the right time. And then they go on a winning streak. I know it's wild to look at sports like that and realize that there's not always a common thread for some of these, whereas with hockey, it's so open-ended. It's ridiculous. I mean, we've seen numerous times teams be 8 seeds, win championships, go to Stanley Cups, upset the 1 seed. And so remember that being closer to average in hockey just means that you're among the contenders. And you heard Bob Wischusen say, you look at teams like Colorado and the Dallas Stars, Colorado Avalanche, Dallas Stars, they added some big-name players. Florida Panthers added a big-name player. But then you have a team like Winnipeg that says, no, we're going to fill the roster around our big-name players. And so there's more than one way to round out your roster into a champion. And so when we get to the Stanley Cup playoffs, it's going to be the team that has their guys mentally in the right place at the right time to be successful, and they're going to make a deep playoff run. It's not just, I get the best player. Because more often than not, the best player does not win a championship in hockey. So, yes, do the Flyers only have one megastar in Mishkov? Yes. But is building out the rest of the roster with megastars the answer? No, because if it was, the Edmonton Oilers would have multiple cups by now. The New York Rangers would have multiple cups by now. It's just not the formula for the way the sport of hockey works. I'm Josh Hennig hanging out with you here on 97.3 ESPN. We'll check on the text board one more time on the other side. 609-403-0973. Your DMs into 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. And we are live on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig. Final segment coming up next.
It's Flyers-Kraken tomorrow afternoon on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Listen as Tim Saunders and Todd Fedork bring you all the exciting play-by-play action.
Now Beachcoff with the backhand. He scores! Medbay Beachcoff!
It's Flyers-Kraken tomorrow afternoon. Coverage begins at 12:30. It's Flyers hockey all season long on South Jersey's radio home for Philadelphia Flyers hockey.
What a save by Harrison again!
97.3 ESPN.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them, but they have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go, and that place is ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter, you're missing out. So see what it's like when the impossible is easy. When you go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
Texting enrolls you in a recurring automated marketing text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
The team's looking good this season.
I think so. Man, I miss playing football. Being young with unlimited energy to burn. Ever since I turned 40, I just can't find that fire I used to have.
Think you could be lower testosterone?
What do you mean?
All guys lose their edge when they turn 40. The body has less testosterone. That's why I take Nugenix Total T.
I've heard about Nugenix. That really works?
Since I started taking Nugenix, I'm lifting like when we played for Coach Carter. I feel more energized at work. It's even spiced up things between me and the missus.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try?
Yep, send a text. It's that easy.
Text AREA to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. It's the #1 selling testosterone boosting brand at GNC and Walmart. Do it now and they'll also send you a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, their newest, most powerful fat burner ever, absolutely free. Text AREA to 42424. That's AREA to 42424.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest. The last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your
windshield wipers? eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying. Just beautiful.
Whatever you love, find it on eBay. eBay. Things people love.
This is the story of the one. He's responsible for keeping a leading healthcare facility clean and safe. And he trusts Grainger's high-quality HVAC cleaning and safety products, combined with their world-class supply chain, to consistently deliver, ensuring he's covered inside and out, so he can focus on keeping his facility clean to help protect the health of everyone inside. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
When you switch to Progressive, you could save bundling your home and auto. Then you could put that money towards some of the surprisingly more expensive things in life.
Attention passengers, we've reached 10,000 feet and internet is now available for purchase.
I just paid hundreds for this flight, and you can't even throw in internet? I'll just take the free pretzels.
Sorry, but I do have snack boxes for sale.
I'm just gonna sleep.
In that case, we are selling pillows and blankets as well.
I'll just breathe. That's free, right?
Life costs a lot, so bundle and you could save with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Rise and shine, Valentine. All month long, you be the commander-in-chief. The savings are presidential. You just sign and drive at Matt Blatt Mitsubishi with 0 down, 0 payments for 90 days, or 0% for 60 months on all remaining 24 Outlander sports in stock. But they won't last. Get yours before they're gone. Brand new Outlander PHEV, 0 security deposits, and just $399 per month lease. Yep, just sign and drive it home. Maybe you're a first-time buyer, or you've been turned down for a loan. Matt Blatt Mitsubishi wants to finance your future, not your past. Bring in any trade, even if you're stuck in a current loan or lease. AJ the Trade Man wants to get you released and into a brand new 24 Outlander SUV, $29.99 with 0 down and 0 payments for 90 days.
Simply, Mitsubishi.
Lease modifications exist with approved credit. 1666 for 1,000 finance on in-stock 2024 Outlander Sports. Not all will qualify. Go to mattblattmitsubishi.com for complete details or call 844-946-2315. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer, except for licensing, registration, and taxes. Expires 3/4/25. Matt Blatt Mitsubishi in the heart of Glassboro for 30 years.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Before we wrap up the Power Hour here on 97.3 ESPN, and thanks to Bob Wischusen for joining us earlier in the show, I just want to touch on the upcoming NFL offseason because we are seeing a lot of guys get released because teams don't want to give up draft capital. They don't want to give up assets. They don't give up players to acquire Harold Landry from the Titans or in certain situations, maybe even a DK Metcalf. We always saw Tyler Lockett get cut. And I'm just putting it out there. You're going to see more guys cut than traded this offseason. And it's not because the teams don't want those players, but because those teams realize that they value those players more than anyone else does. Take care, everyone.
Saturday morning in the locker room with Billy Schwein, producer Nick Earnshaw, and I will talk about the Phillies in Clearwater, Sixers and Flyers collapse, and the Eagles signings. Then we will talk with the general manager at the Jim Whalen Boardwalk Hall, Jim McDonald, on the big events the Hall is hosting over the next couple of weeks. Hour 2, Mr. Negadelphia, PJ Quarter checks in, brought to you by the Galloway Pool Service. Mr. Negadelphia will have plenty to get off his chest. It's the locker room with Billy Schwein, Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN.